All right, more energized than I thought before coffee break. But so I am Parsley's general manager, and I do want to talk about goal setting and achieving goals in 2019. And let's see, the big button with the play signal is going to get me to the next slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about Parsley, who we are, what we do first, just to kind of like set the stage. We believe that audience attention is precious, and the way that we kind of measure this and help our clients is through probably what most of you know us through is the Parsley dashboard, where we are directly measuring site performance, audience, and kind of aligning that around the structure of content on the site to essentially build this into the goal setting discussion, help you kind of navigate between corporate goals, team goals, individual goals. So individual reporters, writers, editors, social teams, revenue performance teams, all having a common place to understand audience attention and audience impact for the entire site and revenue products that they're working with. So what's really important, because of the way that we organize the data around the content structure itself, which is really core to content publishers, we can present all of this data in an extremely intuitive fashion that essentially anyone in the organization can pick up and start to use and understand and impact the way that they're working. And a lot of times I think when we think about goal setting and tracking toward performance, or even just understanding audience analytics and how to take action with some of this information, it can sound overwhelming, and it can sound like, well, if only we had a group of analysts to do this work for us, then we'd be in a good space, or the analysts that we have are overwhelmed with just reporting on yesterday's performance and things like that. And that's one of the roadblocks that really inhibits a lot of companies, and it's something that we really focus on at Parsley, is creating a self-serve atmosphere so that analysts that are really talented can focus on education, strategy, and implementation, whereas the rest of the company can kind of self-serve and take the lead of the analysts and kind of collectively work toward the performance goals that the company has set. And so to use a cliche here, give a man a fish, you can feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, and you can feed him for a lifetime. That's kind of one of the perspectives our company takes here. We really need everyone in the organization, whether you're on the digital side or the linear side or the revenue side or the editorial side. There needs to be a common working across the company toward the goals that are important, depending on the individual, what has been set for them, what has been set for their team, what has been set for the company. They should all kind of funnel up and funnel down in a cohesive way. So at Parsley, this is kind of what we do for the thousands of sites that we work with. You can see we work across entertainment, brands, publishers. We have partners that are kind of data sources for us, or in the instance of Post-Up, WordPress VIP, Looker, we have integrations to power additional automated processes, essentially, that the data is informing. And so all of this is kind of rolling into the theme that audience attention is precious. And I think about this personally for me right now. I'm on stage, I have a microphone. I should be the focus of everyone's attention, bar none. There's nothing else that you should be doing right now, except you're on your email, you're texting, you're looking at Instagram, you're researching what is Topgolf. There's lots of things that are drawing your attention away from me at the moment. And the only way that I can make an impact in this 10 minutes I have on this stage is to hold your attention for as long as possible. And translate that to digital publishers, your ability to hold that audience attention is exactly what distinguishes you from your competitive set, regardless of who you are, what you're doing, what type of content you're producing, what type of experiences you're producing. If you can't hold that attention of the audience, you have no opportunity to make an impact either for your clients, your advertisers, or like from a journalism perspective, to make an impact on the audience that's reading about some important issue. So one of the things that we've kind of seen a change in the market over the last several years is, again, from the goal setting perspective, a focus more on engage time as a metric that is of primary importance in organizations. And essentially this is because time equals opportunity, right, like I just talked about. Before we jump too far ahead, though, general reminder, it's really good, no matter what kind of goals we're talking about, it's really good to make sure that the basics are covered when you're introducing these things to your teams. So even something that may seem as obvious as what is engage time might not be so obvious to everyone in your company. And if you're introducing something like this as a new goal, or even if it's page views, the definition of page view, believe it or not, differs from publisher to publisher. It seems like it shouldn't, but it does. So really covering off those basics and definitions is extremely important, just as a general reminder in this conversation of goal setting. But for engage time specifically, as seen through the lens of Parse.ly, we're talking about a precise measure of the amount of time that readers and viewers are spending with your site or your content. It's highly correlated with long-term loyalty and conversion outcomes. This is just something that we've studied with multiple partners of ours, and seems to hold true kind of across the board, and has been discussed already in some of the prior panels. And it's a metric that advertisers have increasing interest in, again, because time equals opportunity. That is their opportunity to make an impact with their potential customers. What engage time is not, it's not time spent. So it's not comparative to Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics, which is an imprecise measure of trying to get at a similar conclusion. It's not a silver bullet either. So you still have to kind of build this structure of KPIs. You can't just focus on one, though this can be a metric that is prioritized because of some of the reasons that have been talked about earlier in panel discussions here today. And remember, when we talk about scale and the importance of this metric, time is finite, unfortunately. Page views, you can almost kind of like scale forever, right? But time, there's only so much time that each of us can spend with our devices every day, and that growth is still happening but slowing because we're kind of edging up on the limits of how much time we can all spend with digital media on a daily basis. And so I want to jump into a couple case studies that we've produced and exist on our website, but we'll kind of condense here into a couple minutes, just to kind of help you understand how engage time has impacted some of the organizations that we work with and some of the value that they've seen out of this. So first one is Slate. We heard from Charlie earlier. We understand the revenue and business model behind that company is somewhat complex, probably not dissimilar from a lot of you here, but obviously there's digital display, there's direct sold, there's subscriptions, there's podcasts and the ways that podcasts are monetized. So again, to convert people from that one-time view to actually then become interested enough to purchase a Slate Plus subscription, or to convert to a totally different medium to listen to a podcast and so subscribe to that podcast, that's not going to happen if you can only attract them for like a 15-second visit one time, right? Those people are going to have to come back multiple times. If they're going to come back multiple times, that first impression probably has to be a pretty good one. So we did some analysis to kind of break out the difference between good visits and bad visits. It's a pretty simple way that we've done this here, just sub 15 seconds or more than 15 seconds. And then even further from there on the good visits, passerbys, long stays. And so this is a really important just starting block to understand how we build this top of funnel to get to the bottom funnel. That is really important to us as a business. You got to focus on that first user experience. And this comes down to the content that is influencing people to spend time on your site, the way your product is built, the platforms that you're using to attract people, which kind of comes into the next case study here with The Intercept. One of the things they looked at is engage time per acquisition platform. So especially if they're, if you're spending money to attract people from Facebook, as an example, if those people are bouncing really quickly, what is the lifetime value, to Ramiz's point, of those visitors? There might be a small margin that you make on the ads you can serve to that person versus the acquisition cost, but what is the opportunity cost because of the LTV if you could acquire a better user with a better experience through another channel? So we focus on the first part, getting good visits on the site. We then have to focus on how we keep those users on the site. Content personalization is something that we power for a lot of the websites across our network, and essentially this is just giving the reader what they want, right? We can understand their user behavior, their patterns, the types of content they like on the site, doing that either on-site or in email. PostUp, who's another sponsor here, we kind of pioneered a great integration with them where we're actually personalizing in email content, which is producing tons more engagement, tons more clicks, tons more visits, and that can be a really powerful thing to grow that valuable segment of audience. And then ultimately, what we're trying to do here, create a good top of funnel first user experience, keep them more engaged, help them navigate more pages on the site, help them spend more time to build these really valuable audiences, which we can then segment down to either look at geographies, in this case for Bloomberg, which I'm running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to skip over here to Wall Street Journal, and really focus in on the 80-20 rule here. So it's really easy to program sites or to target advertising for the broad users across the site, the 80%. But the 20% is probably actually the most important and valuable audience on the site. And so to focus your content, audience, and revenue strategies on that smaller audience is probably the best way to actually spend your time. So giving some thought to how to do that is a good exercise for any organization. Last piece I'm going to talk to you really quick in like 45 seconds is looking externally. So a lot of this that I've just talked about is understanding the audience that's already on your site. But what if you can understand the audience that's not on your site that you want to get on your site? That's a really interesting thing. And so Parse.ly has recently produced this new product called Currents, which shows the attention of over 1 billion users per month across 1 million articles and many, many thousands of sites that we directly measure to help you distill down what are the categories and topics that we're creating content about that there's a large audience across the web, and where are those people? Are we performing really strongly on our own site on Brett Kavanaugh in New York, but the rest of the internet is not reading this content in the same areas that we're performing well? Why is that? What can we do to balance out that equation and attract more quality audience? And then thinking about the distribution channels as well. So targeting the type of content, the geography, the platforms, being able to identify back to we have quality audiences on our site, and then target content strategy, audience development strategy, and revenue opportunities against the global audience can be a really powerful thing for audiences or for your organizations. And I think I'm out of time, so I'm going to cut it there. Thank you all for listening. And if we're going to Topgolf, I'll definitely be there so we can talk more.
Thank you. Great job. And man, I felt like you were rushed, so sorry to rush you there, but great stuff there. And please log some time with John if you have questions about this. And you have a couple of teammates here as well, right?
Yes. So Claudia sitting back there and Nick sitting back there. Okay. Definitely grab us. We'd love to talk.
Great. So Claudia and Nick and John, thank you so much. This is Parse.ly's, I think, second or third time with us, and we're always glad to have you guys back. We're now going to have a coffee break, a networking break, also sponsored by John and the Parse.ly team. So please make your way out, have some coffee, and we'll be back in about 15, 20 minutes. Thanks.
Thanks.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel rushed at all. But
no, I didn't feel rushed.
That was great.